Hello, David Chudyk. How are you today?
I am doing really, really well today. I love being guests on podcasts and being on this side of the microphone. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Well, I tell you what, when ran across your name, I was really interested in some of the things that you do. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about yourself, David. What do you do? Where are you at? What's your specialty?
Yeah. So I'm in Seneca, South Carolina, which is about an hour and a half from Atlanta without traffic, and about 7 hours from Atlanta when you're driving in Atlanta traffic. But just a beautiful area. We're right near Clemson University, so if you follow college football, there's a lot of orange around here on weekends. And yeah, so I'm a certified financial planner, and I do a lot of the things that traditional financial planners do, but I do something a little bit different with business valuation. And when I'm working with business owners, I help them to increase the value of what's more than likely their largest asset, and that's the business itself, which is really a kind of a neglected part of an entrepreneur's financial plan.
Okay, I absolutely love that. All right. Um, in my online journey as a marketer, I've worked with many sizes of businesses. And one of the aspects that has always been a little more, let's just call it frustrating, is the business owner who is tied into everything,
Mhm.
right? You can't get anything done until that person gives you approval to go to the next step. All right. So in your world, right? In your world, what how does an entrepreneur create that business and move from being a technician to actually being a business owner?
Well, I think the first thing is a mindset shift. You as a business owner, you are not nearly as freaking important or as smart as you think you are, and it's the same thing for me. And that's really really hard, right? Because business owners are driven and they want to kind of grow, and shoot, I mean, I did this myself. I mean, for a long time I did my office's payroll because I'm the only person in the world smart enough to figure out how much money should be taken out of people's paychecks. Well, no, that's pretty stupid, because number one, I'm going to do it wrong, and it's just not an income generating activity. So I think the first thing is to realize that if you've ever followed Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach, we all have unique abilities. So what that means is there are probably two or three things that Carrie is just absolutely uniquely qualified to do to help a certain segment of society. And everything else Carrie should be paying other people to do, or working towards having the resources to pay other people to do. Um, you know, I've and trust me, I've been in this trap where I was kind of the bottleneck of my office, but certainly the first step is the mindset shift. Get the right people in your organization, and they could be outsourced. I mean, now with Upworks and Fiverr and everything, or even someone like yourself, for marketing, you can outsource tasks, but you need to be working, like battling like every day to get the things off of your plate that you should not be in charge of.
Yeah, the question is this something I should be working on or not?
Mhm.
I
Absolutely.
like that. I like that mindset. So, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm starting off in business and I have a goal. I'm want to build this business up and I want to eventually my exit strategy is to sell. Okay? So I'm building this business up not to create a job, but to build an asset that can be sold. How do I do that?
So when you look at, there are basically eight drivers of business value. So if you get these eight things right, that you could tend to sell your business for a higher multiple than somebody in the same industry in the same part of the country. So one of the more important ones is what we refer to as kind of the hub and spoke kind of obstacle, where the owner is the hub, and everything kind of goes through the owner. Owner is the only person that can sign checks. Maybe there's, the owner is the only one who knows how to solve kind of the bigger problems that tend to happen. The owner is the only person who can make exception to, customer service exceptions, things like that. And number one, that leads to a really, really, really stressed out owner who just has the weight of the world on their shoulder. And trust me, I've been there. And number two, while the owner typically, and this may be a blanket statement, but the owner typically is maybe the most driven person in the organization, the owner certainly doesn't have all of the necessary skills to do everything. So your typical kind of driven salesperson-ish type owner, probably not that good at bookkeeping, things like that. So the owner doesn't have those abilities. And quite frankly, the owner needs to be generating revenue in one way or another. So that's one of the 8 drivers of business value is hub and spoke, and for the owner to have a plan. And if you're starting a business, it's not possible to have the owner not involved with everything in the beginning. But if the owner has that mindset of let's get things systematized, and let's get to where I cannot be involved in every aspect of the running of the business. If you order something from Amazon and it doesn't show up, or like in my case, I had I ordered a fairly big package, and it was supposed to show up last Friday. It didn't. So I put a sign on our front door at our office, because we were not open Saturday and Sunday, saying, please do not leave packages over the weekend. Well, over the weekend, I got a message saying my package had been delivered. So I had to drive out to the office because I didn't want it sitting there. Well, guess what? I didn't get to call Jeff Bezos and say, hey, I put in on the app that you shouldn't leave a package. Jeff Bezos doesn't deal with that. Now that's a huge example, but the owner should not be dealing with everything. There needs to be processes kind of in place to kind of deal with everything that the business comes through.
I like that a lot. And I pretended shocked when you said that an entrepreneur, a business owner, doesn't have all of the skill sets necessary. I'm surprised by that. You as a financial planner, you don't know how to do the books, the marketing, the sales, the HR work. You don't necessarily know all those things.
The problem is entrepreneurs are typically smart enough to even kind of figure out some of those things, but is that a good use of their time? So, you have YouTube University, so I can YouTube anything and figure, get general information on how to do it. I mean, even to the point, let's say, I own this building. Let's say the toilet clogs. I can YouTube how to unclog a toilet. And maybe if it's a simple fix, but if it's anything major, I need to get a plumber in here to make sure it's done right, so we don't have no water damage or anything like that. So, and I think that's the entrepreneur's paradox, is that entrepreneurs are smart, and what they don't know, they can figure out, especially with the supercomputer we have in our hands at all time. But again, should I be doing this? Or is there someone else who is, more capable? And even in the long run, even if you're paying them, what's the opportunity cost of me spending, a few hours YouTubing, how to market my business better, as opposed to, and not earning, whatever my hourly rate would be when working with ideal type clients, as opposed to, paying you or someone like you to advise on marketing. So, it's that everything doesn't have to revolve around me mindset, even if I'm somewhat capable of doing it or figuring out how to do it.
Yeah, I think that's tremendous. I mean, I was speaking with a business coach the other day, and one of the things this person said, that the very first thing they outsourced was something that they didn't like to do, right? And that was cleaning their house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay. You think, well, wait, how does that help me as an entrepreneur? Well, now you don't have to think about it. You still get the thing that you like, right? A clean house. And does that time free you up to do something more productive?
Absolutely.
Right?
No. And also think about if you're spending most of your day doing things that just make you cringe. So like for me, that might be balancing a checkbook. I'm just going to put it off. And then, you're not productive when your energy. My business coach talks about managing energy. So like our energy needs to be up. And when my energy is up, like it is right now, because I'm talking about something I'm passionate about, like I do a really good job. my energy is going to be down when I'm paying bills, when I'm balancing checkbooks, when I'm doing some of the things administratively that I don't particularly like doing, nor am I good at. So if I get those off my plate, um, and get them systematized, which is a very important concept, to where everybody in your organization is doing the same task the same way, so that the customer or any stakeholder, and a stakeholder could be a customer, it could be a vendor, it could be another team member, is getting the same experience every time. So you can
Right.
go to McDonald's and get the same crappy hamburger anywhere in the world, but they have systems. So if that's what you're looking for, you're going to get the same hamburger. Now, it's never what I'm looking for, which is why I don't go there, but that's a whole other issue. But you're going to get the same thing. And the owner of the McDonald's probably has never cooked a hamburger, nor would they know where to get, they don't know anything about that. They're just kind of managing the systems.
Right. All right. So you mentioned that you have 8 pillars of business growth, right?
Correct.
What's another one that we can look at?
Yeah. So another one is financial performance. Okay. And you look at that in two ways. So if I'm buying your business from you, what I really am buying is I'm buying what I believe the future financial performance of the business would be. And then I'm also buying the hard assets. So if there's a building, we
Mhm.
can kind of debate what the building's worth. And that would be, the asset purchase agreement. But the goodwill portion of it is, what do I think it's going to earn in the future. So, how accurate are your books, first of all? So, if you're a business of several $1,000,000 of revenue, and if you're looking to sell in the next couple years, having an independent audit of your books would be a very great investment. And that way, I, as a buyer, can't really debate what I'm purchasing as far as what past revenue was, and there's no questions. And let's face it, I mean, business owners, sometimes funnel some things that are maybe not exactly business expenses, and you're just kind of playing the game, and that's fine. But having auditable books is a good thing. And then, getting things under control and having the highest, it seems pretty simple, but how do you maximize profits? And having maximized profits, you're typically paying some multiple that involves a profit component when you're buying a business. So increasing profit is certainly a huge factor in being able to sell a business for the highest multiple.
Now I heard a couple things in there I want to flesh out, especially for the bookkeepers out there. This sounds like a great opportunity to become a specialist and helping businesses get to the point where they can get their financials audited and then have very good record keeping up until the time that the business is actually sold.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. No question. And we all, even if we're not selling the business, our books should be as clean as possible at all times. I mean, we all should. Um, again, we should either in-house or be working with a bookkeeping service that, can have us, ready for an IRS, audit within a few weeks. I mean, your books should be balanced as of last month, as much as humanly possible, and they should be accurate. So, and that, kind of in the several hundred thousand to million or 2 million of revenue businesses, a lot of times the owners are still way too involved in bookkeeping, which is not a good thing.
Really, you see that a lot.
I do. I do. I had a dentist client, and I remember we were just chit chatting, and he said something to the effect of, "Okay, I need to go run payroll." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know how you base your services, but it's probably two, three, four, $500 an hour, which is great. I mean, you have the expertise, you have a dentist should make a lot of money,
Right.
and so instead of doing extra fillings, you're going to go log into QuickBooks and type in hours, which again, you're probably not. It's not rocket science, but you should either be going home and relaxing and enjoying life, or you should be doing more $500 an hour dental work, as opposed to kind of figuring out payroll. So I do see that a lot of entrepreneurs have that control freak aspect, which, I mean, there's part of me that has that as well, but we have to battle that.
Well, if you want to ultimately exit out through a sale, you absolutely must find a way to not do those menial tasks.
Yep. Yep.
Not that
Yep.
bookkeeping is a menial task, but as a business owner, it's not your it's not where your revenue producing energy should be.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, there's no question about that. Because ultimately, what you're buying when you're buying a business is kind of, what the future is projected to be. And if the current reality is based on, hey, the owner, everybody comes into Carrie's restaurant to see Carrie, and everybody, and Carrie cooks all the hamburgers, and Carrie then comes up front, and he's a nice guy, and he rings you up because it's a little restaurant. Well, I would not buy that restaurant for very much money, because as soon as the first day when Carrie's no longer there, people are be like, I don't know who this new dude is. And Carrie was the reason why the hamburgers were so good. And that's true.
Yeah.
So that business would have a very low value other than the physical assets themselves. Whereas like a franchise restaurant, you don't know who owns the Chick-fil-A or the McDonald's or anything. You just know that the systems and processes are in place. And that's why you get the consistent experience.
Well, I see that a lot in the marketing world, right? I see a lot of people that are in every aspect of what they do. And then they want to talk about their exit strategy being something that they want to sell their business. I'm like, how do you think you're going to do that when you are the guy, right? You're the one with the creative ideas. You're the one that's doing um, the video editing. You're doing the social posting. You're doing the SEO. It's like you know if you're going to sell your marketing agency, you have to create an agency that actually functions without you.
Oh, no question. And that's for the purpose of selling a business, but it's also for the purpose of not kind of being in entrepreneurial bondage. I mean, as entrepreneurs, we don't get to clock out at 5, and that's fine. I mean, I would never trade it, but there has to be a point where that, hey, I can leave for a day, or I can get sick and be out for a week or two, and the business can still survive without me. And a lot of entrepreneurs are not in that position.
Right. Now I know that you part of your background is insurance, right? And we're talking about personal insurance,
Sure.
homes and cars and things. Are you familiar with what is his name? The bad boy of insurance, Michael Jans.
Michael Jan, yeah, he what's his agency revolution, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've seen
Now
his products a bit.
he told the story of some of his higher end clients designing their own lifestyle, right? And so they would have an agency that would be, let's just say whatever town, like in your case, it would be Columbia. And they lived out in the country, and they would design their business so that all of their appointments would happen on a Wednesday and a Thursday or a Tuesday and a Wednesday. They would fly in, they would do all of their sales presentations in 2 days, right? And then they were off for the month. The entire staff would take care of the rest of it from that standpoint. And it's like, that's such a, it's like when I first heard that story, like, and that was like 20 years ago, I was like, that sounds crazy. How can you design a business that you really are only necessary physically 2 days a month,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
Well,
it's systems.
and one of the things that kind of that has been a little bit of a mantra for me lately is you choose your hard, right? So it's hard in some ways to develop. Maybe it might take you a year of developing systems, which is kind of maybe a pain in the neck, and coaching your people. And even some entrepreneurs, it's a little bit quote hard to not be in the office, because you feel like while the cat's away, the mice will play and things like that. So that's hard. But if you choose to do that hard, then you get to work the 2 days a month or 3 days a month. Or you could choose the hard of everything has to be done by me, and I have to prove everything, and I'm gonna, and I have maybe, I think a lot of entrepreneurs have like that inner need to like feel super important and to say, I work more than you do. I've worked 90 hours, and ultimately, number one, nobody can be productive for 90 hours. You can't even be productive for 40 hours, to be honest. So, get your stuff done, have systems in place, and then, yeah, you can work a lot less than that pervert. The 40-hour number is, I don't know who made that up and when, but it has nothing to do with reality.
No, no, it really doesn't. Um, I think in today's world, we become a victim of the comparison game. Social media, everybody's shining, their brightest light on their best success. And, people look at that and say, "Oh, I want to be like that too." And then they fall into this trap of, well, if I'm going to be like that, let's say Gary V, right? Gary V, man, he was the hustle king. He was the Captain Grind, right? And so everybody says, well, if I want to have that kind of success, then I have to be like Gary V. I have to grind. And I see it's like, look, I'm not a young guy. I don't believe in the grind.
Hmm.
I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the patience for that. But I see a lot of young guys, they come up and like, "Man, it's 3 AM, here I am still grinding."
Yep.
And then that's Saturday, right? And then Monday, "Oh, I'm sick, I don't feel good, I can't do anything." It's like, you gotta take care of yourself while you're doing the growth.
Yeah, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with reaping some of the benefits of all of your hard work as an entrepreneur. Because as an entrepreneur, you're giving away the guaranteed salary, you're giving away the guaranteed health insurance, you're giving away all of those guarantees. So either there are going to be times in your career where you're just paying yourself less, or you're not paying yourself at all, or you're taking personal money to keep the business afloat. But there are also going to be other times where you can pay yourself a lot more because profits are coming in. So you have to be mindful and make sure that you're taking those, reaping the benefits of all of your hard work. And sometimes that's hard to do for entrepreneurs, for sure. So,
Well, I think the other aspect of that is lifestyle, right?
yep.
I mean, if you create a world in which your business runs without your presence, on 100% constant basis, well, then your lifestyle will change. You will have that ability to spend more time with your family or your hobbies or whatever gives you that kind of satisfaction of life. I mean, maybe that is social activities, for your community. I don't know. But if you design things correctly, then you have the opportunity to make those kind of decisions.
Yeah. And when you say design, we also kind of outside of our business, we have a lot of other ways that we can design our lives. So I'm just going to make up a number. Let's say your business, you're able to take, $1 million out of your business for personal revenue every year, which is a great thing. But if you're spending $1 million and $1 every year just on life, you're going to run out of money. So, you need to design your personal finances, with budgets, with where you're allocating your money, with your financial systems and things like that, to make sure that you're being purposeful with your money outside of the business. And when you think about it, number one, a financial plan, and number two, our businesses, if we're entrepreneurs, they should just be tools that are there to serve us and to help us to give our lives and the lives of those around us just to be better lives. And money doesn't really matter per se. I mean, we don't have paper money anymore, almost. And pretty soon we're just gonna have digital currency. But it's not the money, it's kind of the options that money gives you. And so if we're managing our businesses the right way, if we're managing our lives, our financial lives the right way, we're definitely putting ourselves in a position where money is not an obstacle. So that's really what I try to do for clients, and the details, where your money should be and which stocks and bonds. I mean, that's why they're paying our firm to kind of figure those things out. But definitely kind of making sure that our clients are having better lives by how they handle their money.
So is that one of the things that you do? Person comes and they say, David, hey, I'm thinking about the next step in my life. I want to sell this business. I want to get out. I want to do something different. Do you sit down with them and talk about those 8 drivers of profitability and how they can not only design their business so that they can exit, but also their personal side so that they can be able to manage things better
Yeah,
during
because
that transition?
typically, and I'd love to kind of share this with you for your listeners, but we have a freedom score questionnaire, And it just asks some kind of concrete numbers questions like, how much money would you like to live off per year once you sell the business? And then other questions on like, well, what the heck would you do if you sold the business? And sometimes people say, you know what, I'm not ready to sell because, golf sounds awesome, but I can't play golf 7 days a week. And so we have a freedom score that kind of just helps people to understand like, how ready are you to sell the company? Do you have other things going on, things like that? And then, yes, if it kind of turns out that selling the company is whether it's immediate or if they're just looking towards it in the next few years, what we would do is look at the 8 drivers of business value and kind of hone in on those. And we can talk about as many of those as you'd like, but we would also look at their personal financial situation. So let's get the budget under control. And there's a lot of ways to do that, but it could be very simply just making sure that we're on some systems and we're just taking automatic distributions from our accounts every month and living off of that. And looking at all the different parts of the financial planning process and then just monitoring that. So you really can't separate the two. As a business owner, your business is your asset. And then once it's sold, you have the proceeds, which is now an asset that needs to be managed properly. But even like with what's happening with the stock markets right now, the people who had good financial plans and the right allocations for them are not incredibly stressed out. The people who, and I'll use an extreme example, who are 85 years old that have had all of their money in the stock market, which it shouldn't be, those are the people that are stressed out now that we're having kind of these, downturns. So, you got to have your money and your financial decisions made in a way that makes sense for you.
Mhm.
And your financial situation is different than mine, and mine is different than somebody else's. And, but it has to be made in a way that makes sense for you and your family.
So, okay, that leads me to the questions like, a lot of people hesitate to buy experience. They hesitate to hire a coach, they hesitate to hire a mentor. And what I'm hearing you discuss is basically that for finances, you guys, you in particular, are that person. You're the coach and the mentor that they should be hiring to help them get success and confidence.
Absolutely. The biggest part of success in any part of life is the implementation, and then also kind of taking emotion out of it. So let's say you wanted to lose weight and you have a weight goal. Well, again, YouTube University, you could find, lots of information on how to lose weight. But the bottom line is, if you're paying me to be your personal trainer and you have to meet me at the gym 4 days a week, and I'm going to hold you accountable, you're going to lose the weight. And if you're keeping a diet journal that I, as your trainer, am looking at, but none of that is really rocket science. If you eat less and exercise more, you're probably going to be moving in the right direction. Of course, there's more expertise involved than that, but it's the holding clients accountable and
Mhm.
then also providing the expertise. If you were a new client and just to make up numbers, you wanted to have an account that would be able to spit out $200,000 a year at age 65. Well, we would make those calculations and then we would say, okay, well, for the next, however many years, you'd have to invest, $1,273.52. Well, 3 months from now, if you stop that investment, we'd have a conversation. So the goal was to have this pot of money. Your actions are showing different. I mean, has anything changed in your life? I mean, is business revenue down? Is there some reason, or has the goal changed? Because if the goal hasn't changed and your situation hasn't changed, then your actions are not bringing you to that goal. And it's kind of my job to help you to get to that goal.
Sure. Um, you've mentioned twice now this thing called YouTube University. I want to touch on that because the idea that and I do see this a lot. I see people saying, "Well, all the information's out there. It's free." And okay, well, let's just take for a moment that that argument is true, which I don't believe. Um, but even if it's true, how long is it going to take you to go through all of that information to determine, "Oh, wait a second, is that true? Is that current? Is it valid for me? And then is that actually false?" Right? Because there are people that they create information that is not is not right. It's not true. It doesn't work, or it no longer works. And how are you going to be able to discern the truth and the effective advice from the ineffective or bad advice?
Yeah, so actually that's an interesting point considering what I did yesterday. So yesterday, a really good friend of mine, um, I have a good friend who's in business for himself, and he's operating. He had some questions about how he should structure his business, LLC, S corp, or and so I like connecting people, and I care about this guy. I don't want him to make any mistakes. So I said, you know what? My accountant's a good dude. So why don't both of you come to come to my office? I'll pick up lunch. We just have a chit chat. You ask questions on, how the S corp work versus the LLC, non S corp, and so um, my buddy ended up saying, wow, that's not what I understood from watching YouTube videos. So he was about and whatever his understanding, and either he understood the video incorrectly or the video was not correct, but he's wrong. And it would be a fairly big taxable consequences if he would have done what he was going to do. So, talking to me who has some expertise and talking to my accountant who has a lot of expertise got him to understand the concept, and now he's going to be on the right track with the right business entity for him. So could he have watched more YouTube videos and maybe understood it? But YouTube videos also don't answer questions. I can't ask a question and have something clarified. So yeah, the YouTube University, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You can figure out how to do things, but to me, you're just much better off finding someone who knows what they're doing.
Right. Um, a great example from the marketing world is you see people attracting clients through social media. All right. You do a podcast, I'm doing this vodcast, I'm putting it up on YouTube. Yeah, those are client generating activities for us. However, that does not mean that that's the right client attraction vehicle for everybody. There are certain markets where, yeah, you don't need to be doing that at all, because there are different ways that you can attract clients where people are actually seeking you out, but they just can't find you.
Absolutely. Yep, no question. So and there's never everybody who's quote selling something on YouTube, they're selling their system. And if their system is not right for me, like you just said, there are many, 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 many different ways to market your business. I need to find the way that works for me. And if it's not, your YouTube system, like I'm not, I do some TikTok videos, but they're just very simple, 30-second. I'm not jumping around in dances or anything. And,
I was
and if
gonna say
there's
I
any,
gotta go find David
yeah,
dancing.
no, trust me, there's no dancing videos there. Um, and they're, they're relative. I mean, they're professional, but other people, and there are some attorneys that I follow that are really, really goofy, and I don't know, like I wouldn't personally use them, but it's obviously working for them. So there's different ways to do everything, and working with someone to coach you who has some flexibility of determining what might work for you, because what's going to work for you may not be the same thing that's going to work for me.
That's very true. All right, let's have one more of these pillars of success. And I'm not going to go over all of them, because I want, if somebody wants the rest of them, they're going to have to contact you.
That's a great marketing strategy. Kind of give a little tease and then not give everything. You almost sounds like you know what you're doing. That's pretty cool. So another one is what we call the Switzerland structure. And if you think about it, Switzerland is kind of neutral. So Switzerland doesn't really depend on anybody. Well, I have a really good friend that does really well. And we went over to have dinner at his house, and there were, a bunch of people. It was a nice cookout. And we always talk business, because what entrepreneurs do, they talk business. So I get there and he's like, yeah, man, I got the call from one of my bigger clients, and there's a chance that they're going to not use us as a supplier anymore. And I said, okay, well, I mean, that really stinks. What is that? 8, 10%, 15% of your, he's like, no, it's 80% of our revenue.
Ooh.
So Switzerland structure is like, how dependent are you on any one customer, any one supplier, any one team member? Because if you have one great salesperson and they leave and now you don't have any other ways to sell, or if you only sell on Amazon and let's say Amazon changes their policy and you can no longer sell on Amazon, or if one customer is a disproportionate amount of your revenue, I'm not going to buy your company for as much because, we're one lost customer, one lost team member, one lost law. Sometimes laws change on how things are able to be done. And that lowers the value of your company. So having a diversified system of support that, if you lose one would not cripple the company is very, very, very important.
Boy, I absolutely love that one. I love that one. I've been guilty of that myself. It's like, okay, I've got this one client, and he's like, it's a huge check. But what happens? What
Yep.
happens if they'd make a change in direction? It's like, see ya, Carrie.
Sure. Well, you remember the choose your hard. Well,
Yeah.
it's hard to get, let's say I become a client, I'm paying you $5 million a year. Well, it would be real easy to kind of sit on that and celebrate. But it would be a little bit hard to say, okay, this is great. I'm going to serve this guy as well as I possibly can, but I can't depend on him. So I'm going to still figure out ways to go
Mhm.
out and get other clients and diversify my revenue stream.
Right.
So that's a little bit hard, but what's even harder is getting me as a client and then losing me for whatever reason, whether we're not a good fit or people die. I mean, all kinds of things happen. And now you're, 80, 90% of your revenue is gone. That's really, really hard. So
It is. And if you find yourself in that situation, well, you have a time lag between the fact that you weren't doing any marketing and then going back and repriming that pump.
mhm,
It takes time to get back to that level. Like your buddy with the 80% loss of revenues. Like, how do I replace that? Do I replace that with one again, or do I have to go out and get more, and then you have to go out and start the process all over again?
sure.
And
Yeah.
depending on your sales cycle, that can be problematic.
Absolutely, no question. And also, one if there's one team member, if there's one sales platform, just you can't be too dependent on any one thing, for lack of a better term, because that thing can always go away.
Right. Uh, w- did you ever participate in MySpace?
No, I never was in on MySpace. That's a long, long time ago. But
It
if
is.
that
It
was a
is.
source of your revenue,
Yeah, I'm dating myself. Um, but the lesson there though is like, it's like, well, MySpace was the king, right? There was no YouTube, there was no
yep,
Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was none of those alternatives, and you had MySpace, and it was a great way to connect with people. You could market your business, you could market your band, you could do all kinds of different things. And then along comes Facebook,
yep, yeah,
and old Tom and his friends just died, right?
uh
MySpace died overnight. And it's like, it's like, well, that's not gonna happen again. I don't know. I mean, do we remember when Yahoo was, the great big search engine?
sure, absolutely,
Who
yeah,
uses Yahoo now, right? They
yep,
yeah, they don't even have their search engine anymore. They're part of Bing. So, it's like you think that these great big companies can't fail, can't change. It's like we have evidence all over the place that these platforms that we use to market our business, to do business with, can change, overnight. So I
sure.
love that. I love that point about Switzerland. It's like, well, is your business really dependent on a person, a piece of software, a third party, anything?
Even a technology. I mean,
Yes.
technologies change, laws change. So there's, you got to be looking at, is there one thing that could cripple my business if it went away tomorrow? And the answer is probably yes in a lot of cases, and we need to try to mitigate that possibility.
Yeah. I love that point. That's fantastic. All right. So David, are you ready?
I'm ready. I think. I don't know.
What is something most people think is important that I can just skip entirely?
The news. So everything you see on the news probably not all that important in your life. You could control a lot of your individual life, but what's going on in the world, a lot of cases not that important. So skip the news.
Love that. Love that. All right. What's something important to your daily routine you wish you had started sooner?
Journaling. I think it's very important. Journaling helps you to be purposeful and it helps you to write down your thoughts and be clear. And I journal every day and it's very, very valuable.
Now, you had started this, but you wish you had started it sooner.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
When
So,
I was
okay, as a non-journaler, how did you make the decision to go down that road?
Well, you remember we talked about like hiring good people that tell you what to do. So it's part of my business coach's, morning routine is journaling. So, and he made a compelling evidence and that it is important. And so, it's something a lot of people would probably agree that is important, but they just don't get around to it. So when you have some accountability and direction, you tend to do things that are a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but then they become just incredible habits.
Gotcha. Love it. All right. Last question. What is something you believed 5 years ago that you had to unlearn to get where you are now?
Wow. That's a little bit that's deep. Um, let's go back to my first point business wise is that I'm not that freaking important to this organization. I'm important to the few things that I'm really good at, and that would be generally speaking, like meeting with clients and coaching clients but all the other details, I've always been so involved with them. And I really had to step back and make a mind shift about all the details. So I had to unlearn that I'm that important because I'm not that important. I'm very good with clients and clients almost always take all of my recommendations because they're good recommendations and they're exactly what the client needs. But all the rest of the stuff needs to not be handled by me.
Okay. I look, I love that. I mean, I've learned a lot of lessons, and the one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that, well, you're like you. I'm not that important. And,
Yep.
it's like other people can do some of the things that I think I need to
Better than
do.
I can do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
enjoy it. I mean, there are literally like my bookkeeper, she says this is like so exciting. It's like a puzzle I was like, really? Like people enjoy balancing checkbooks? Like what kind of a sick individual are you? But she would probably say the same thing about me. Like you enjoy prospecting and trying to get new customers. That's probably horrifying for her. So,
Uh,
the world is made of different people.
Absolutely. I remember taking an accounting class in college, at the same time taking a finance class, right? So on the one hand, you're talking about valuation and PE and all these other things, and it's like, oh man, this stuff is fascinating. And the other hand, you're going to accounting class, and it's like journal entries, and it's like, oh, what? Debits and
Sure.
credits? And I was like, no, I don't want any part of that part.
They're both incredibly important, probably equally as important, but they both don't need to be done by you.
Right, right. I found one fascinating, and I found one just absolutely mind-numbing. All right, so David, tell us where people can find you and who you serve.
Yeah. So, would love if everybody would check out the Weekly Wealth Podcast. That's on all of the major platforms, or you can just go to www.weeklywealthpodcast.com. We talk about the mindsets, the tactics, and the strategies that can help you to build and maintain wealth. We typically talk to the business owners of the world, but we also just talk generally about budgets and money mindsets. We've talked to therapists about how to have less stress and just we really try to help people to have better lives by how they, are purposeful in their lives. Um, Also check out my website for kind of the business value increasing portion of my business, and that's called www.allofmyassets.com. And the reason I named it that is because I'm looking at all of your assets and not eliminating your business, which is probably a very large portion of your net worth. There's a couple questionnaires you can get your value builder score, which tells you kind of some of the areas where maybe you could work on And even we can work it out to where it gives you kind of a range of what your value of your business would be as, as a starting point for selling. And then, yeah, just email me if you have any questions. I'm always happy to do a 30-minute consultation, kind of talk about anything. And that's David at parallelfinancial.com. So David at
Okay.
parallelfinancial.com. In my world, there's really no licensing restrictions. So you could be in Hawaii and, potentially, either we can just chit chat or even be a client, if you're okay with working in Zoom. And like I said, I mean, I believe that how we handle our money should just make our lives better. So if you or someone that just is frustrated with money or knows you need to do something a little bit differently, or that you have like this goal, but you don't have like a set plan to get there, that's what I do. So David at parallelfinancial.com.
Awesome. David, I really appreciate your participation in this project. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I would love to have you on the Weekly Wealth Podcast as well.
All right, we'll make that happen.
Good
Thanks
deal.
again, David.
Thank you.